So Glock is one of the most popular handguns on the planet, and they have been for some time. And let's say this is like 1990 something, and YouTube's around, and your boy is reviewing guns. In that time period, I'm going to tell you, as far as a striker fire gun goes, this is the cream of the crop. But it's 2023, and today I'm going to show you 5 guns specifically that are making Glock not necessarily obsolete by any means, but are making them look bad. Now, granted, some of these guns are more expensive than Glocks, but let's be honest, dude, you can run a Gucci Glock up to, a couple of $1,000s sometimes, which is kind of silly, but to each their own. Regardless of the price, I want to show you some of the features that some of these other companies are doing to their guns that make them stand out and make them, I think, a better option. Now, I will say that 1 or 2 of these guns is going to make some of you upset. The fact that I brought them in and said that they were better than Glock. But all I ask is, before you leave your comments, just hear me out, watch till the end of the video, so I can tell you why I think these specific guns are making Glock look bad. Now, for the people dedicated to the brand, which again, I understand this happens in every facet of life, from Harley Davidson to Chevrolet to Glock. People are married to that brand. They are so dedicated to that regardless of what any of those companies release, people are going to gravitate towards them, because not only have they invested their own time and money into them, but they believe in that brand, which is totally fine. But like I said, there's other things out there. So the whole idea of this video is to maybe give you some other things to think about. If you are dedicated to the brand, fantastic. If you're not, maybe I can show you some other guns here that could be a better option for you. So without further ado, let's get these guns out of the way and bring in our first one. The H&K VP9. Now, this is the long slide version, and I'm not really going to focus on that part of it specifically, because this is a more expensive option, right? Even the regular VP9 is more expensive than the Glock 19. Maybe $150, $200, depending on where you go, right? But we can look at this gun and I can pick apart certain features that make this superior to Glock, in my opinion.
Amazing trigger. I like that a lot.
If we first start with the sights, right? So they've updated this. The HK VP9 has been around for a number of years, man. I think the first time I reviewed one of these was like 8 years ago, and I recently did an update on it. But you have a nice set of sights there, right? So you have that luminescent front sight, blacked out rear. They are steel sights as well. So they're going to hold up better if you compare that to the Glock 19. They still use these terrible U-notch, drop in the bucket type of sights, and they're plastic. So that is a common upgrade for Glock. And while it's a common upgrade, does that mean that, Glock shouldn't change this over time? You know what I mean? Now, you can get them standard with night sights, but generally speaking, these are the sights that are going to come on here, and the HK VP9 has a superior set of sights. Not only that, grip texturing. So check this out. You can actually customize this, not only the back strap, but these side straps as well. So these little side panels will come off, and you can customize this like 27 different ways. When it comes to comfort and just the way this gun feels in the hand and the way it shoots, this thing is much better than Glock. Hey, big thanks to Arms List for sponsoring today's video. If you live in an area where it's hard to find good gun shops, this is a great way to bridge the gap. Not only can you find people locally in your area, but you can also search their FFL network, which has over 1,300 dealers. So hard to find guns, new guns, World War II stuff, everything in between, you could find it all in one place. So for a super low monthly membership fee, you get a ton of benefits and even exclusive discounts right there through the site. No BS or nonsense, and a lot of times you can even skip sales tax, which is pretty cool too. Again, big thanks to Arms List for sponsoring today's video. When we look at the trigger, check this out. Hit the wall, boom, breaks. Reset, right there. When we look at the Glock, right, who designed this safe action trigger? It's a great design. You get to the wall, oh, hold on, you get to the wall, and it breaks. It's not terrible. It's got a really clicky reset. Does that make it the best trigger ever? No. Do people upgrade the triggers a lot on Glock? Yep. But stock for stock, this is a better trigger. And overall, when it comes to reliability, who the heck is arguing that HK is not reliable? I would challenge pretty much anybody on that. Now, what I won't challenge is the fact that every man-made object on the planet can and will fail at some point. The Gen 4 Glocks, they had issues. People don't like to remember that, or it kind of, you know, escapes their memory from time to time, but they had issues too. What happened? Did we deem Glock as the most unreliable thing ever? Nope. They fixed the issues. They handled it fairly well after some time. You know, it seems like most companies, not just Glock, but most companies tend to shift some of the blame first, and then when they realize, oh God, there's nothing else we could do, then they say, okay, sorry, it was our fault. You know what I mean? So regardless, the HK VP9, when it comes to striker fire guns, in my opinion, is definitely better than Glock. One other addition I wanted to show you here, yes, it is a little bit busier too, right? And again, I'm not going to pay attention to the fact that this one has, you know, lightning cuts in the slide. You know, there's long slide versions of the Glock you can get. That's not really what I'm talking about. But when it comes to features, like the wings in the back right here, you can take those off if you don't like them, but they just assist in charging up the gun. So you get one more feature there where HK, who is not known for catering to the American market, not at all, they still thought this pistol all the way through, and they're like, dude, this, to them, being their first striker fire gun, they knocked it out of the park, dude. So all of these features together, in my opinion, no matter which VP9 you have, make this a better option than Glock. This next one probably comes as no surprise, but the Smith & Wesson series of guns has only gotten better. Now, let's say we're talking about the original M&P series with the original trigger. There were some things that were better on that gun than Glock, but it only when they came out with the Shield and then the M2.0 series have they, in my opinion, solidified their place as far as being better than Glock and surpassing them, in my opinion. You have, of course, now this one is a core model, M2.0, so it has higher night sights, which are steel, but their standard sights are steel as well. So you get a better set of sights on this gun. Some would argue not a better trigger, but I would say, especially this PC trigger is better. Their original M&P trigger, or the M2.0 trigger, is better. Their new trigger on this new Shield Plus is much better than Glock. So one thing you'll notice with Smith & Wesson, if you start with the SD-V series, then you go to the original M&P, and then you keep going through the years, they've only gotten better and made improvements along the way. Not only are some of those components better than Glock, but the big thing I want you to take from Smith & Wesson, and the difference here and why I say they're so much better, is because they've innovated over these past few years. They went from getting sued by Glock because of the SD series, it being so closely mirrored to Glock that they still have to pay Glock for every one of those guns that they sell, which I assume is why they still make them, to making a different design, right, and surpassing Glock at the same time, right? So it took them a bunch of years, but now they're doing it better, and that's through innovation. That's through them listening to people like us, you know, right? We use their guns, we say, we don't like the trigger, we don't like this. They start changing, evolving, updating to now, in my opinion, a better product. And so that's a good thing. And not only do they make pistols, of course, but everything from their folding pistol carbine to their shotguns, their revolvers, their ARs, and the list goes on and on and on. These guys are making a ton of awesome guns, but their pistols have surpassed Glock, in my opinion, over the past few years. Next one I want to bring in is the Canik SFX Rival. So they have the new Rival S, and they have the Canik Meat. Two guns that I really want to get on this table, and I'm working on, I promise. But this gun, when I shot this gun, I literally had this thing for like, man, it must have been 4 months, 4 months, whatever it was. I bought it, I used it one time, and then I just kind of let other things get in the way. Well, I recently reviewed it, and I was blown away by the performance of this gun, specifically the trigger.
There we go.
So, and this is the big part of this gun and why I think it's better than Glock. So when you look at the designs of the two triggers, right, they're kind of similar, right? Now, Canik has more of a flat face design, okay, as you can see. But what Canik does with this striker fire trigger is it's almost like the PPQ, except better, which is hard to beat the PPQ. Oh, crap, I already pulled it. This is a competition gun too. And it is a little more expensive than a basic Glock 19, but check it out. Boom. The pull on this trigger, reset. It is incredible. So what I feel like Glock does a lot of the times is they know people customize them so much that it's almost like, what do we really need to change in our gun? Where these other companies are like, we have people complaining, we can make this better, let's do it. That's what I'm getting at here. But the trigger on the Canik, if this trigger was in the Glock, along with some of the other things that I mentioned from some of the other guns, including sights, we'd be talking about a whole new animal. This thing really takes striker fire guns to the next level, and it has become my best shooting pistol as far as striker fire guns goes, which used to belong to the core from Smith & Wesson. This thing is even better than that. Now let's talk about the one I mentioned in the beginning that's going to get a ton of heat from y'all, some of y'all, and I get it, P320 Spectre Comp. And the reason I say that is because it is way more expensive than a standard Glock 19, but hear me out. The fact that you have this P320 all tricked out, right? It's got the compensator on the end here, right? It's got the TIN gold barrel and trigger skeletonized at that. You got the Romeo on top. It's a freaking metal frame. This is a badass gun. When I said that the Canik was my best shooting gun, let's just say my best shooting gun under $1,000, because this thing is a monster, dude. It's awesome. I really love this thing, but it's an evolution of the P320. So they took their first striker fire gun in the P320, had several different sizes. What do we need to do to make them better? What do we need to do to make a competition version? What do we need to do to secure the military contract, like in this P320? So, not that specific one, but you know, close enough for the civilian version. What I'm getting at here is they could have just said, hey, this P320, a lot of people like it. Oh, besides the fact if you drop them, ha ha ha. You know, that whole thing, because that comment will come up. But they could have said, hey, listen, we got a winner here. Let's just do what Glock does. Let's just keep making the same gun, make some little changes, and see how many we can sell. They still make this gun, but they've made changes along the way. They made updates to the trigger where they needed to. When the whole drop firing thing was happening, they made sure to recall and get those issues fixed. They could have done the same with their long-running P229 and 226 versions. What did they do? They updated it. They said, dude, how can we make this thing better? People are going to buy this because it's a SIG and they trust it, but how can we make these guns even better and update them? And that's what they did with the Legion series and so many other versions of the 226, 229s, so on and so forth. The big key with SIG is innovation. Like a lot of these companies, that's probably the word of the day, is how many of these companies, although solidified in their fan base, if you will, the people that trust and use their guns, law enforcement, military, whatever, they are always looking to make these things better and better and better for us. And that I appreciate. Last one we're going to talk about is one I had to take back to the range to realize how much I really love it. That is the CZ P10S. Now I should have brought the P10C, but just know that the P10C is a little bit bigger than this gun. The fact still remains. You have a striker fire gun, CZ's first striker fire gun. So we've covered HK's first striker fire, we've covered CZ and SIG's P320. All of which had the benefit of using Glock design and engineering over all that time before anybody else was really doing striker fire guns, which I can admit too. They already kind of had the knowing of like, how does this thing work, but then how can we make it our own and then make it better at that? So that is something to consider, but the fact still remains they made it better. And one thing you'll notice with the CZ P10 series, by the way, very similar in price, and so is the M&P, most of them anyways. But one thing you'll notice, this is how you do a safe action trigger. Check this out. Boom. It's not the lightest trigger in the world, but it is predictable. And this gun shoots so good, man. Oh, come on. I kicked my ass, but regardless, the CZ P10S, what an incredible gun, dude. It's been so long since I've shot this gun, I almost forgot how freaking good it was. And that's no cliche talk right there. That is the truth. This thing is absolutely incredible. Front and rear slide serrations, they make them optics ready now. It's a little heavy for what it is. And I would love to see these guys come out with some kind of single stack or half stack or something to compete with the, the Glock 43X and the Shield Pluses and, those kind of guns. I would love to see that. But they made an update to their magazine release because the one in the P10C and I think the full size were like really tough to push those things in. So they made an adjustment to it. This one's better, steel sights, way better trigger. These guns just impress me more than Glock for all of the reasons that we just talked about. I think it's funny when people say, you are a Glock hater. And it's like, yeah, I hate them so much that I own 4 of them. So it's not necessarily being a Glock hater, but I would love to see the new Glock rifle I've heard about, a PDW, a PCC, a steel frame version. They would sell those. The engineers are too good to be such a smart company. I just don't understand their lack of innovation. It drives me absolutely nuts because I know they could do some really cool things. Maybe even better than the companies that I just mentioned. They just don't. That's where I'm at with it, man. 5 guns that make Glock look bad. Love to hear your opinion down in the comments below. If you like this type of video, drop me a like on the video And if you're not subscribed, consider doing that. It is totally free. If you want to support what I do, even further, you can do that through Patreon or join this channel for $1 a month. So that's really nothing, 12 bucks a year. Thank you guys for joining. See you in the next one. And as always, hold them down. Three misses. That penis target is just swinging away. Let's get the competitor and try that one.